Aloha, beautiful souls, and welcome to the next episode of the Soul Waves podcast. So, this episode is going to be a wee bit of fun, yet also a bit of seriousness in terms of the words of wisdom, the wow that is coming through from Source on it. The fun part that I'd like to start off with, and it dives into seriousness with a little bit of funniness, is I want to start off with back in the day when I was married to my now ex-husband. Well, we've been divorced for a long time. However, back when we were married, he got me as a present one time because, let me start off by saying this, music is my heart. I have always loved music, and from the time I was wee, I can remember being like 5-6 months old and standing at the stereo speakers that we had at the time and just bouncing up and down and rocking out to whatever music was playing at the time, right? On the radio. Now, so back to what I was saying. Once I was married to my ex-husband, he got me this book because he kens, he knows that I love music so much. And it's called Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy. And it's after the song and the lyrics that is, excuse me whilst I kiss the sky, right? Instead of this guy. And other misheard lyrics, right? And it was published a long time ago, obviously. So I'm dating myself. This was back in the mid-90s that it was published. You can probably go onto Amazon or what have you and still find it. However, along with this, I have something rather humorous to share with you as well. If any of you can or know of Peter Kay. He's a hilarious comic in England, at home in England, down south in England. Obviously, me being Scottish in part. And he has an hilarious skit that he did. And I have it here in the show notes, so have a look at it if you are ready for a wee laugh to kick things off. Go ahead and have a look at it, and then you can come back to the podcast anytime I am feeling any different emotions and what have you after I've processed them and what have you, and I need a wee laugh, or just in general if I need a wee laugh. I will put that part of the skit on. He has a whole entire show, but that part that I have here in the show notes is my absolute favorite because it has to do with misheard lyrics. So speaking along the lines of that, as you can see, the title of this episode is All You Need Is Love, Really? And the subtitle is That and Other Silly Love Songs. So the first focus is going to be exactly on All You Need Is Love and that and silly love songs. So the crux of this is going to be speaking about, do we really need love only? And first, though, I want to dive into some of these lyrics. Now, again, whilst music is my heart, and primarily in recent years, I'd say probably in the last 20-odd year or what have you, it's been primarily spiritual music. Folks such as Deva Premal and Matan, Satnam Kaur, other artists that are more in alignment with the soul music, the music of the soul, the music of the spheres, if you will. As is talked about in the film by Robin Williams, whence he talks about the music of the spheres, which is the music of the universe, in August Rush. So, that said, I still love some music, and whilst there are some really bonny romantic love songs that are out there and good quality music that has a good message, I'm dating myself, things like What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That is a really good song. I mean, some of the songs of the time in the 60s and the 70s, the protest songs, Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together. The young bloods, aye? Those of you who are old like myself will know exactly what I'm talking about. A woman who I mentor, bless her heart, she is like 31, and I shared with her a song that was coming through during her session from Miami Sound Machine, Gloria Estefan and Miami Sound Machine, and she looked at me like, who? So those of you who done a keen or don't know who that is, I would invite you to have a go and pick up some new music if you are of the younger generation. However, having said that, I will say, and could be said of my parents and even my grandparents of my parents, in generations before, I will say what I will say now. To me, the music that is out there today, this is just my opinion, and is not meant to cast shade or diss anyone or what have you, but the music of today, for the most part, is noise. Now, I ken that my parents said that about my music back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and my grandparents said the same thing about their music. My parents' music of the day. So it's a generational thing, I'm sure. Having said that, to me, the quality of music has drastically changed in recent years. Basically, from about the, I'd say, mid-90s, there's some late 90s, early 2000 bands that had some good quality songs. But for the most part, it has rapidly declined. The vibration, the frequency, and the energy of music overall has changed, has shifted completely. Now, again, I'm going to say this from the outset, that there are some good quality songs out there from back in the day, up until 2000, give or take. Having said that, a lot of the music, maybe you have noticed, even perhaps today's music, like I said, I didn't really listen to today's music per se, but loads of songs that are hugely popular, both on both sides of the pond and the world over, tend to be songs that are fostering things like codependency, hateful love, desperation, vibrations, rather than what love really is. So I'm going to start with All You Need Is Love, and I'm going to run down some that came to mind in preparing for this podcast. And so the first one is All You Need Is Love. And I'm going to dive deeper into that in a moment. However, what I want to start out with saying is it takes way more than love to make a relationship, a connection, a marriage work. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now. We're going to dive deeper into that song in a bit. Having said that, Silly Love Songs by Paul McCartney, former Beatle member and what have you, who created Wings with his wife Linda McCartney when she was alive. Great song. However, what I'm going to say about it is, if you listen to the beginning of the lyrics, you think that people would have had enough of silly love songs, but I look around me and I see it isn't so. Oh no. Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs. What's wrong with that, he says. And so I'm going to say, what's wrong with that? Exactly what I just said earlier. This sense of desperation, this sense of love, unrequited, a sense of pain, a sense of hurt, a sense of shame. All these things that love and what we really are meant to be about in connection and relationship and marriages with each other is nay really what it is. So I'm going to go through some songs here. LeAnn Rimes is a big one, and this song happens to be used loads of times for people's wedding songs. The first dance song, How Do I Live Without You? And the lyrics go, how do I get through one night without you? If I had to live without you, what kind of life would it be? I need you in my arms. I need to hold you. need you to hold. You're my world, you're my heart, you're my soul. If you ever leave, baby, you would take away everything good in my life. How do I live without you? I want to know, how do I breathe without you? How do I ever survive? Now, can you imagine being on a first date with somebody and singing that song to them? Talk about creepy, talk about desperation. Like, this woman is basically saying that we're supposed to say this to men and women that we fall in love with, that I can't breathe without you. I don't have my own personality, my own frame of reference. I'm codependent on you for my breath. I mean, how horrible is that, right? The other one, and mind you, this happens to be one of my favorite all-time duos, okay? Air Supply, All Out of Love. I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you. What am I without you? Right? Desperation. Okay? Chicago's another one. Just say you love me for the rest of your life, because I can't go on. I can't go on if I'm on my own. Really? Is this what we need to teach folk? Is that you just can't go on without somebody? Now, I get it. There's this sense of deep love that's there, and the meaning of the song is meant to be about love, but really it's teaching codependency. Okay, here's another one. Can't take my eyes off of you. Okay, I love Frankie Valli. I saw him in concert several times, a long time ago, obviously. But really, it's about something called limerence. And for those of you who Daniken who don't know what limerence is, it's basically a fantasy or a story that we create in our mind based upon a few breadcrumbs that were given in a relationship, or even if we done a love somebody, or they done a love you the way you love them. Okay, and I'll get to that in a moment by another Frankie Valli song. But let's dive into Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. You'd be like heaven to touch. I want to hold you so much. Pardon the way that I stare. Okay, kind of creepy. Hello? Are we talking stalker vibes here? Okay. And then there's My Eyes Adored You. Though I never laid a hand on you. Which he means to touch you, but really, in today's society, come on now. That could mean loads of different things, okay? And he talks about carrying this girl's books from school, playing make-believe you're married to me. You were 5th grade, I was 6th when we came to be. And this is a friendship song, really, because he talks about later on in the song how he goes for city lights and he climbs the ladder of fortune and fame, yet he still reminisces about the girl he misses and the love he left behind. What love? This woman, this young girl never even loved him. They were friends. He was playing make-believe, and he even says it in the song. I'm playing make-believe you're married to me. That's limerence in its rawest form right there. And so there's these songs that are trying to bring about this sense of fantasy, and that's what I want to get to in just a moment. Okay, and so I have another one for you. I'm really dating myself with this one. However, it just happened to come to mind once I was preparing to record this week's podcast. And it's a song by the OJs called Used to Be My Girl. So he talks about the girl's got plenty good lovin', and ask him how he knows. And he'll tell you so because she used to be his girl, right? So then he says, I respected her when she was mine. I used to neglect her, and she wanted more than I could give, but for as long as I live, she'll be my girl. Really? Okay, so the girl is being possessed by him, and he supposedly respected her. How can you respect somebody or value somebody if you neglect them? You cannot do. And she wanted more than he could give. But yet, he still loves her. But yet, as long as he lives, he's going to possess her. And she is his. Can you imagine? And we sing these songs. Now, I admit there was one point that this song very much resonated because it could be a song that my my ex-husband could sing to me when he was still holding a torch for me after I left the marriage. And then also, more recently, that my twin soul would sing to me. Because that's how conflicted he is within him, with the wounds that he has yet to completely heal from. And yet at the same moment, we sit here and sing these songs with feel-good music and talk about this sense of desperation and this sense of dichotomy, as if this is what love is meant to be about. And it has anything to do with what love really is. What love is when you take another as part of you, as God, as Source sees you and is with you. And then you, from that place, love the person the way they need to be loved, the way you want to love them. And it's also from a place of a dichotomy where you respect somebody but yet also neglect them. Because you understand if you take them as part of you, you cannot hurt them without hurting yourself. And so you want to do your level best to do what's in their best interests as well as your best interests. You take their best interests at heart along with yours. That's what it means to love someone. That's what God does with us, Source does with us. Loves the totality of us, of our soul, the wholeness of us, the good, bad, right, wrong, upside down, and everything in between, because God sees us as the perfection, the essence of God, gift of divinity that we are. That's what love really is. This, I respect her in one moment, yet when she was mine, as in a possession, and I used to neglect her. You can respect, ergo value, honor, revere someone, and yet at the same moment neglect them. And then here's the kicker of this song. We placed this song, and this was a top 40 song in the UK, in Canada, in America, and very popular the world over. Okay, it's teaching about placing women on a pedestal, and ergo men as well, to place your partner on a pedestal. And anytime you place someone on a pedestal or something on a pedestal, they can only go down from there. And it then puts you on equal footing, as I shared in my last podcast episode, where you're meant to come to a place of neutrality, which is what brings something closer to you. You push someone away or something away if you're looking to bring something towards you. But in this case, we're talking about a relationship. And he basically says, deep down inside, I still love her. I place no one above her. So in other words, he places her, even though she's gone and she's walked away because he was mistreating her and had every right to mistreat her because she was being neglected by him. He openly admits in this song. And yet he places her on a pedestal and makes her a god, if you will, instead of his own soul, instead of God, Source itself, places her as that pedestal, which then does nothing more than push her away even further. And this is what we're teaching society that love is. And then he goes on to further say that if he had that chance, he'd take her back. Take her back and do what? Neglect her again? Take her back so that he can get from her what she used to give, which he talks about in the song as well, that she was not only good looking, but she was so smart and you can't beat her cooking. So is that why he wants her back? And again, this is what we teach love supposedly is. And he says she has such a great personality, and she was so right for me. Well, if she was so right for you, you would neglect her and claim you respect her. And again, this is what we teach people in society that love is supposed to be. And here's one more, a really good one. Pat Benatar, love is a battlefield. If you want the epitome of what an avoidant, dismissive avoidant, or fearful avoidant and an anxious avoidant relationship is, look no further than this song. You're begging me to go, then making me stay. Why do you hurt me so bad? Talk about codependency and avoidant attachment. Believe me, I can't tell you why, but I'm trapped by your love and chained by your side. Trauma bond. Can we say trauma bond? Soul ties. This is not what love is, but yet we have catchy lyrics and catchy music behind it, and we sing this. We're young and strong, and love is a battlefield. We're searching our hearts. That love is a battlefield. Is love really meant to be a battlefield? Is that what love truly is? When I'm losing control, will you turn me away? And when this all gets old, will it still feel the same? There's no way this can die? Talk about trying to stay in a codependency loop, in a trauma bonding, in an unhealthy attachment. And again, because it's a catchy tune, we just sing it and sing it blindly. And there's something else that I want to dive into too, is some of the other ones that are hurtful. So if you look at Bruce Hornsby in The Range, there's a song called That's Just the Way It Is. And it's a really dark song. And for those of you who didn't ken the song or the lyrics to any of these songs for that matter, I invite you to go look them up. Bruce Hornsby in The Range, The Way It Is. Aye? And he starts out talking about standing in line, getting welfare. Aye? Getting benefits. Aye? And how there is a man who is in a silk suit and catches a poor old lady's eyes, and just for fun he says, get a job. And this is just the way things are, and some things will never change, he goes on to say. Aye? And of course he says, he tries to give something a little bit more upbeat in the song, that dunna believe them. Aye? And they passed a law in 64, my era, to give those who ain't got a little more, but it only goes so far. The law dunna change another's mind when all you see is the hiring time, is a line on the color bar. Aye? And he's speaking to the dark side of the way things were in the 60s, about black versus white and what have you. And so in some ways, the song itself is a good song because of what it's calling attention to. However, it's a very dark song and promoting things that are really... and the thing that bothers me the most about it is all these lyrics. They have feel-good music in the background, and we sing them because they're a catchy tune, and it's got good music in the background, and we sing it promoting a sense of codependence, violence, sex trafficking in the tunnels of women, like this song, Dire Straits, Walk of Life. It's a really upbeat song, and just recently, a goddess who I mentor at home in Scotland sent me this, and she was like, "Oh, this man's got moves," and she sent me the official video, I think it was, to this song. Aye, so he's got some moves, indeed. However, if you actually take a moment to look beneath these good feeling music in the background to the actual lyrics of what he's speaking of, he says, I got a woman down in the tunnels trying to make it pay. For any of you who know about what's been going on for a long time now, I mean, of course, this has been on since the time of Atlantis. However, in recent history, about the tunnels underground and the sex trafficking and human trafficking that's on, this is what he's speaking to. And this song was done in, the 90s, I think? If I remember correctly. I could be incorrect on that. However, he's talking about the walk of life, and again, it's like this catchy tune, and we do the walk of life, but this isn't the walk of life. This is harmful. He's embedded in these lyrics, obviously. I got a woman down in the tunnels trying to make it pay, right? Trying to make her pay. He's got action in the motion, boy. the boy can play. Now, of course, anybody on the surface would look at it and think, oh yeah, he's playing a tune, he's doing all sorts of things. This is talking about a player. This is talking about a sex trafficking player. I am turning the nighttime into the day is part of the lyrics as well. So basically, this is what they do in harming the sex traffic victims is basically take them from the nighttime into the day after they're done with them. They dispose of them, so to speak. A sweet woman and a knife. After all the violence and the double talk, it's just a song about the struggle and the strife. Really? In the context of what I just said, these are very troubling lyrics. And here's the thing. Also, what I would invite you to do is to have a look at some of the names of the actual artists and the groups. All of this is done purposefully. Now, I'm not attempting to step onto any conspiracy theories or what have you. I'm just inviting you into opening your eyes and having a look at some reality of things. Which is the name of this group, Dire Straits. Who would name their group the Dire Straits? LeAnn Rimes. Really? Rimes? Is that really her name? Nay. Okay. Bruce Hornsby. Horns, like as in the devil's horns. The Beatles. What are Beatles? We consider and they consider them, and those of you who can know what I'm on about will understand when I say they. Beatles are considered several things. One, in the Egyptian culture, what did they do? They got into you and ate you alive. And then beetles are considered to be dirty. Some of them are a little less ominous, so to speak, like wings, angel's wings, wings of a bird. Air supply, we need some actual supply of air, right? Chicago's a big haven for things having to do with the mafia and what have you. Is that a surprise? So I really invite you just to kind of have a look with new eyes. There's a film called They Live. And the basis of the story in the film is that this bloke gets a hold of these glasses. And I can't remember which way it is. I think it's when he puts the glasses on, he can see reality for what it is and how they're programming us and doing things to us against our will or subconsciously and what have you, against our will. And then when you take the glasses off, it's just like, nothing's different. Everybody's just, doing their thing. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing like the film They Live, just kind of uncovering something for you to think about and the wisdom of why we actually sing these songs so mindlessly instead of being mindful. So I invite you to be mindful about what you're listening to of music, mindful of the lyrics and what you're actually singing, even if it has a good beat to it. What do these lyrics mean? Really mean? And this is why I really appreciate a true love song that is talking about the love of Source, and then also the love we have for each other collectively, and then also romantic individual love that's just things like, I love you for who you are. I love you for the reason that you exist. I love you because I see the God in you. And I love who you are, and I respect who you are. So we're going to dive into one other song because this dives into what I want to share with you even deeper still. Now, this is a popular, huge song that even if you are of the newer generation, you are really meant to know. You're really meant to ken this one. Aretha Franklin was the goddess queen of soul. And she sang what song? Respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Found out what it means to me. Suck it to me. The queen of soul. All she was asking for was a little respect. Okay? Here's the thing. Even that song is out of desperation. Why? Because why would you plead with someone, which is what she is doing in this song, in a sense of codependency? Why would you plead with someone to give you respect? All I'm asking is for a little respect here. Okay, so if you look at the word respect, what does respect really mean? It means to value. It means to feel or to show a regard for, esteem or admire. So why would you be begging somebody in codependence to admire you? She said, RESPECT found out what it means to me. Well, if it means something to her, now bless her soul, she's on the other side of the veil. However, she's still with us. As we don't ever pass away per se, we just change form. And because we are soul, the soul is infinite and can be in more than one place at one time. And so she is still with us, and she's with us in this song and in this music. And really, to respect also means to avoid violating, to avoid interfering with or intruding upon. You have respect for someone's privacy. You have respect for some folk have respect for speed limits or what have you. At least that was the example that was given in the when I looked it up. Admiration felt or shown was also what came up in the searches for someone or something that you believe has good ideas or qualities. Politeness, honor, care shown towards someone or something that you consider important. A feeling that something is right or important and that you should attempt to change it or to harm it. The feeling that you show when you accept that there are differences amongst different customs, cultures, and that are different from your own, and you behave toward them in a way that would may cause offense. You have honor for them. You respect them. You show esteem. You admire them. Yet, if you look at the lyrics to the song, she's almost in a again feel-good music way demanding that this man respect her. Why would you want to demand of anyone to admire and respect you? You're meant to have self-respect within you. If someone is disrespecting you, you're meant to come forward and address it with I feel statements and asking for it to be shifted. Can you do this? Can you shift this? But nay, demand it, first of all. Second of all, you ask for repair. Can we repair this? And the person on the other end is meant to feel remorse and then come forward with repair. But you're not ever meant to demand somebody in a codependent way is to admire you, is to value you. So let's go back to the first song in conjunction with RESPECT, All You Need Is Love. This is my opinion, and this is the wisdom from Source as well as the Akasha. All that I'm sharing with you here, by the way. This song, All You Need Is Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. Ba-ba-da-da-da. All you need is love. Really? This song, unfortunately, is the demise of humanity. Now, why do I say such a bold statement? Because if you look at this song along with all the other songs that I have shared with you, it creates an emotional charge within and a fantasy, a limerence that we have created as a society and individuals. Men and women do this. And how many times do I get women particularly, there's men who comes to me as well, but women in particular who come to me and say, but I love him. Meanwhile, he treats me like shite. He disrespects me. He doesn't give me the time of day. He gives me breadcrumbs. But I love him. But we love each other. Let me share with you. Love is nay all there is. Now, in the grander context, love is all that is in terms of love that is source. Love that is source, that is God, the divine spirit. That is all that is. That's all around us, in and through and as everything, including us, every tree, rock, tree, and creature, as it's said in the song from Pocahontas that I love. Colors of the Wind. A Zamboni song. Beautiful song in that sense. However, in the context of all you need is love in what they're singing about, it's a codependency. It's the grandest codependency song ever. And the demise of humanity, because everybody seems to think, oh, if we just love each other, then our relationship will work. Nay. There is a huge list of other things. However, I'm going to highlight the biggest part of that list right now that is required, that is needed and desired and required for a connection to be a connection, rather than all this airy-fairy stuff. There are soul agreements. There are twin souls. There are soulmates. There are soul agreements to be with somebody. However, for a connection to be a deep, proper, and lasting connection, a real relationship, R-E-A-L, a marriage, a union, to be strong and fulfilling for both partners. First and foremost, God, source, the divine, is meant to be blessing that union, and within that union, each step. Now, I admit myself, I was devoid of this. And this is the number one question I ask women. However, I do ask men as well when they come to me. Did God bless your union? Did God say to you, did Source say to you, did the divine say to you that this is the man or the woman that you're meant to be with? The goddess that you're meant to be with? The divine masculine man that you're meant to be with? I was devoid of that. For me, when I married my ex-husband, I first got together with him because I was lonely. And I was so desperate in codependency to be loved. I was so wounded from the trauma of my childhood. I was trying to escape the trauma of my childhood and go right into the arms of an emotionally unavailable man who was afraid of commitment. Ended up becoming with child. Was a single parent for the first 2 years of his life and my pregnancy. And then he came back to me because he saw I moved on and I was dating somebody else, and that somebody else was going to ask me to marry him. And he came back, and I was so desperate for a family and so in this all you need is love vibration that I loved him so badly in codependence, and I wanted somebody to love me so badly, to cover those wounds instead of healing them at that time. I never asked God or Source, was this the man I was to be with? I just simply believed I'm in love and love is all I need. How many of you listening to this podcast or will listen to this podcast have done that? Rather than asking God, Source, is this really the man or woman I'm meant to be with? Now, here are the other things that make a marriage, a union, a relationship, a real relationship, a connection work. Emotional balancing. It's also known as emotional regulation. I prefer to say emotional balancing, and nervous system balancing is the second one, instead of emotional regulation or nervous system regulation. Now, in psychology terms, it's called emotional regulation, nervous system regulation. However, when you look up the word regulation, regulation means to control. Why do I want to control my emotions? Why do I want to control anything? Why do I want to control my nervous system? Control has a connotation of constriction and causes anxiousness and stress. So why would I want to, and I invite the psychological community and the world over to reframe that and to really change the way this is said, because again, vibration, frequency, and energy is within the language that we speak, and everything we speak vibrates into our body and vibrates into the universe. So emotional balancing and nervous system balancing, individually, both of you are meant to be able to have emotional balancing and nervous system balancing. And on the healing path of healing your wounds in from childhood and other lives, your wounds, your traumas, and your triggers. Vitally important, so that you're not projecting those wounds and traumas onto each other. You are meant to also be, both of you individually, thriving in your purpose, the reason that you're here on this earth. That you have your divine connection with the divine, with God, with Source. I call it the 4 pillars. It is, or the 4 essences. It is connection with Source first, connection within, connection with the one you love, and then connection with all. So that is meant to be there as a core foundation first before you ever get into relationship. And then for a relationship to be able to be thriving is to have emotional balancing and nervous system balancing together, individually first, and then also together. Things like trust, respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, valuing one another. From an inwelling from your heart, all of these things, not because somebody is telling you to, or society is telling you to, or I'm even telling you to because it's on this list here. These are things that are inherent, that are meant to be from the inwelling of your soul and in your heart, before you even come into relationship with someone, and then have this ongoingly. Aye? So respect, valuing one another. Valuing yourself first, trusting yourself first. All of these that I'm sharing with you are meant to be individually within you first, and then you can have that as a mirror with someone else. Appreciation for one another. Effective communication. This is the number one issue, pairing with emotional balancing and nervous system balancing, is effective communication and healthy conflict resolution. Because of the way our grandparents, great-grandparents, going on 7, 8 generations went through, they never ever thought about emotions. I came from my parents and my grandparents. Those were during war times and during times of famine and pestilence and disease and what have you, that they were alive and around. And all they were concerned with was making sure they had food in their mouths and making sure that they had a roof over their head. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's the first thing, is making sure that your basic needs are met. So our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our parents even, in some cases, depending on your generation, and even yourself, depending on your age and generation of where you're at, you were never given the tools because your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, they never even knew about any of this. They just got together because, love was all you needed. I love this person, so I'm going to marry them. And back in the day, you didn't live very long either. You were lucky in some cases if you lived to be 20. If you got to 30 or 40, really far back in the day, man, you were considered to be blessed. So, nowadays though, healthy conflict resolution is hugely needed, and to communicate effectively, and honesty and integrity and being vulnerable. I call this, and it's something I used to say to my twin soul often, being real, raw, vulnerable, and from the heart. So being real means being real about your emotions. I am feeling sad. I am feeling angry. I am allowing anger in my body. I am allowing sadness in my body. And with your partner, it's okay to feel sad. None of us understood that. I barely started doing this with my own children, of acknowledging their feelings. Because I can remember my eldest son coming home from school before we started homeschooling. He was in kindergarten at the time. And he was friends with a black boy. And yet all the other children in the school, in his class or what have you, were making fun of this black child, this wee baron. And he came home from school and my son was like, Mom, I'm really sad. I can't understand why they were picking on this boy who's my friend. He's my friend. He didn't see color. He saw him as a friend. My son did, because of the way I taught him. And I was there acknowledging his feelings and saying, I can understand why you feel sad. But in previous generations, my parents didn't do that. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, they didn't do that. In fact, the opposite was done to me. I was severely beaten and a bar of soap shoved down my throat for expressing my emotions and saying my emotions and my feelings in my body. So these are core things. Being real with your emotions, being raw, means to be honest about who you are and where you're at. Real, raw, vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Be raw as in who you really are. Nay, this mask that most of us wear. And being vulnerable and from the heart. Showing that care, that empathy for yourself and for others. Alignment with energy and intention is another thing that is needed in a relationship. A requirement in a relationship. So what do I mean by that? Alignment with energy and intention. So what is your intention? In other words, what would God say? What would love, God, source, the divine say, do, be now in this moment? What is your intention for the relationship? The energy behind what you are saying. Are you using I statements or are you using you do this and you do that? Are you coming from a place of care, concern for being in the other person's shoes, walking a mile in their moccasins? So with this, I will not give anything away per se. If the bloke listens to this podcast, he will ken that it's him, but I will not share who this is. But a gentleman who I mentor said something in a quote-unquote joking way to his brother a few months back, and his brother felt very disrespected. He felt very unvalued. He didn't feel very admired. And this bloke, unfortunately, didn't take accountability for it. In fact, he became defensive with me when I shared with him in the session, do you understand that you disrespected your brother? He couldn't see it. He was like, oh, well, I was just joking. Underneath every joke is something painful. Okay? Now, name what I started out with this podcast of the joking of the misheard lyrics. But when you say something that's derogatory to anyone, and you say it in a joking way, and, oh, I was just joking, it's very demeaning to that person. And it was something having to do with doing the dishes. Oh, my brother will just do them, kind of a thing. Very demeaning. Why would you say that jokingly? Underneath it, because there's some sort of anger, there's some sort of angst, there's some sort of pain, there's some sort of emotions that are underneath it that you're utilizing a joke to cover up, that are being felt, processed, seen, heard, loved, understood by your own body, and then acknowledged. Because if you walk a mile in someone's moccasins and you understand what it's like to be them, you would never open your mouth and say that. There's also that alignment with that energy. Is it an alignment with the energy and intention of who you really are as your soul? So I put it in this context, and it is something I have often said to my twin soul. When he treats me a certain way and what have you, and I will call him out on it in a loving way and say, look, I feel disrespected by what you did. And then I will ask him, and this would be a question I would invite you to ask yourself before you open your mouth and say something to somebody, and or if you've already said it, in looking back and walking a mile in their moccasins, is this. I said to my twin soul, you have a daughter, correct? He's like, aye. And I asked him, okay, if the way you treated me with such disrespect, her husband did that to her, and your daughter was being disrespected, how would you feel about that? And he said to me that he would feel some kind of way about it, and he would probably have a talk with his son-in-law. Exactly. So before you open your mouth and disrespect someone, take a moment to walk into their moccasins and then ask yourself, if you had a daughter or a son, and what you were about to say to this person was going to be said to your son or your daughter, would you be okay with it? Would you want your son or daughter to be disrespected? And if the answer is nay, then why would you disrespect someone else? Or why, on the reverse, why would you accept disrespect from somebody else? Consistency within that alignment. So alignment with energy also means that your words and your actions align. But more importantly, go all the way back. Your vibration, your frequency, your energy, your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, and your words are all congruent. They're all in alignment. This is what alignment means in that sense. So alignment with energy and intention means, are you in sync? Are you consistent in that alignment? That's what consistency in this alignment, to where all of these things are the same. Because if what comes out of your mouth is completely different than the way you act, if what you are thinking is completely different than what you are saying, if your vibration, if you walk into the room and you're like, you've got your best frock on, your best dress on, or you've got your best jacket, gentlemen, on, and you walk in the room and you're really feeling good about yourself, but then you go sit in the corner and don't talk to anyone, and if someone comes up to you, you're very shy. Do you see the miscongruency there, the misalignment that's there? So making sure that all of those things match. I often also call it walking the talk. And this is why I also say to you, everything that I put out there without exception, every video I've ever done, every audio I've ever done, every mentoring session I've ever done, are things that I put in practice in my own life, either currently or have done, or it didn't go out. There are many who are out there just now who are in a space of putting all this wisdom out there, and now they're backtracking and saying, do you know what? All this time I probably shouldn't have been putting videos out or what have you, because God, Spirit, Source, the Divine was actually talking to me. I need to actually do this. That's out of integrity. They put something out in helping many folk, and that's great and wonderful. However, I'm going to share something with you that was a saying that I actually hated because of the context that was given in. Once I was growing up, my mother used to beat me, and she used to force me to do things far beyond my ability to as a wee lassie, as a wee bairn, as a wee child. So at the age of 2 and 3, I was made to be doing my own washing. At the age of 2, when I was being toilet trained, I messed in my nappy in an accident, and my mother was so outraged, she literally beat me with my soiled nappy. Okay? When I was 4 years old, I had to clean the house spot because my auntie and my gran were coming through, and they came through with the white glove. And if it was not clean to their specifications, I got beaten by my mother. So what I came into understanding was I had to do everything myself, and I had to do it right. And if I didn't do it right, I was beaten. If I did do it right, I didn't get reward or behavior. It was just like it was expected. So my mother would often say this in such cruel behaviors, this sentence of, God helps those that help themselves. Now, she did it in a belligerent way. And again, and I have great compassion for her because she did it because this is what was done to her by my grandfather. My grandfather did these same things that were done to me by her. So I knew she was enacting only what was done to her, but also basically in a way to try to get back at my grandfather. She was doing it as if she saw me being my grandfather, my granddad. And so what would happen is she would often say this because this was said to her. This is how she was treated. Now, in the context of what she was saying, it was very cruel. But the actual saying itself, God helps those that help themselves, is actually truth. Because once you are willing to take accountability, which is the next one here, alignment with your energy and intention, consistency within that alignment, and then once you're able to take accountability and respondability, ability to respond rather than react, and take accountability for your mistakes in a place of shame, in the sense of what shame really means. Shame means I did something that was incorrect. Nay, I am bad. Most of us who have been traumatized have the huge trauma wound that says, instead of I did something that was bad, that needs accountability and self-correcting, I am bad. And so for many years, I had that shame and that guilt until I went and healed that of those wounds and traumas related to my childhood. Yet God, Source, will come and help you as you help yourself by taking accountability and respondability for your own shite. Because what was done to me as a child, and the same thing for you, if you were traumatized and experienced trauma, wounds, and triggers in your life, the majority of us on this planet have, in some form or fashion, it was nae your fault. It was nae your fault for those trauma, those triggers, and those wounds. However, it is your accountability and your respondability, your ability to respond rather than reacting from an unregulated nervous system or an unbalanced nervous system and an unbalanced emotional state. It is your respondability and accountability for you to heal it. And so, the last two here on this list are aligned values. Do your values align? And do you have compatible life visions? You're living in your soul purpose, your partner's living in their soul purpose. Are they compatible? Can you support one another, even if you disagree? Can you uplift and inspire and show up as your best selves? Are your life visions compatible enough and your values aligned enough that you can be in relationship without constant conflict? I will give you an example. A dear friend of mine many years gone, and I've said this before in previous podcasts and in mentoring sessions and what have you, but a dear friend of mine, she was married to a bloke, I think, for like 3 years, and they were blissfully in love. And very rarely do I pay attention to folks' Facebook status. I'm far too busy and have far too many other things in my life within helping people to worry about, to be fashing about or worrying about status and station of folk. However, once I'm drawn to something by spirit, by source, by God, then I do. And so source was telling me to look at that particular day. And I was shocked to see that it said separated. So I messaged her privately and I said, oh my God, what's going on? Are you separated? Is everything okay? And she says, we're separating and we're divorcing. And I wrote back, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. What happened? If you don't mind sharing, I'm here for you. Can you share with me what happened? She proceeded to tell me that now she has 3 children. And at that time, I think they were teen and preteen or something of that nature. And she said to me, and he wants children. And I wrote back to her and I was like, oh my gosh, didn't you have this conversation before you even married whilst you were dating? She's like, unfortunately, nay. And he's insistent upon it and I can't keep him from what he wants. I want him to have children and I already have my family, my children. I didn't want to have a second family this late in my life. Fair play. I honor both of their choices. However, having said that, if they would have had that conversation to understand their values were misaligned and their life visions were not compatible, they would have never married, and it would have saved them both a tremendous amount of heartache. It still would have been devastating to break up, but far better to break up whilst you're in the dating phase after a few months as opposed to being married for 3 years. So it's vitally important to have these things rather than, oh, love is all you need. And this limerence that we develop around it. We have this limerence, this fantasy that we build up in our mind of an avatar or a make-believe, just like that song, My Eyes Adored You. Playing make-believe you're married to me. And he's so in love with this girl who just always wanted to be friends. And they lost touch over the years. And in her mind, he was never anything more than just a friend. Currently, and I'm not sharing anything without giving any names away, I was currently for a time mentoring a woman just recently who was in love with her boss. And he is a big CEO for a big firm, so I will not disclose a worldwide firm, primarily though in Europe, where I'm from, nay in the UK itself, but in Europe. And she has not shared her feelings. Now, he is of the European persuasion that, as you well can, and this is why I'm sharing Europeans tend to be very much like the French do and what have you. Kiss. I kiss on one cheek, kiss on the other. It's a very loving thing. You do that with everyone. Very similarly, and I used to say this phrase loads of times when I was younger. I had a wee lassie who was a neighborhood girlfriend of mine because we lived in the same neighborhood, and her parents, one was from the UK, obviously, and the other was from Australia. And so her mum was from Australia, and her mum would often say love, because love is a phrase that many Aussies would say. So I ran around saying love to everyone. Does that mean I'm in love with everyone? Nay. So this bloke would often put kiss emojis to things that she would write to him, work related and things of that nature, or a happy birthday message or whatever. Checking on you to see how you're doing. I know you're stressed, kind of a thing. And she turned this into a limerence of this man is also in love with her. Now, I did share with her, they do have a soul agreement for a possible relationship. However, he is also married. So this would require him to divorce his wife. It would also require him and her both to do some deeper healing work. Now, this is all evolving around the fact that she built this limerence relationship in her mind, this fantasy in her mind that he too has feelings for her because, he would sit close to her and touch her on the shoulder during a business meeting and things of that nature. He's just being kind. That's just how Europeans are, some of them. Aye? And unfortunately, she built up this limerence so much in her mind. We have that loads as well with our exes. Some of you are, I still miss my ex. What I invite you to see is the avatar you built up in your mind of an ex that you miss. Nay, your ex. And 9 times out of 10, if nay 10 times out of 10, when I ask about the ex and say, what is it that you miss about them? They cannot tell me, number one. And then later on, as the mentoring session goes on, I find out things about, he doesn't spend time with me. He disrespects me. He doesn't value me. I've seen him once in the last 2 months. He doesn't make me a priority, or she doesn't make me a priority. And yet we're still in love with them, and I still love them. Love is all we need. The limerence that we created from this song, All You Need Is Love, is that, if I just keep that love alive in my mind, and I keep thinking I miss my ex misses me too. Now, are there instances where this is the case and it's reciprocal? Absolutely. 9 times out of 10, though, what you're looking at is a limerence of love and an avatar that's in your mind that you're in love with, nay, the actual person. The person who disrespected you, the person who didn't make you a priority, is the reality of the man or the woman. Nay, what you've built up in your mind. And this is where the deeper healing work is to come in, so that you can actually access those feelings, those emotions that are within you, rather than projecting it onto this avatar. It's the healing of that avatar. So, for instance, I'll give you the example from my own life. 2 examples, actually. Once I went to heal things of the situation with my mom and how cruel she was to me, the reality is my mom was cruel to me. She used to say things to me like, I brought you into this world and I can take you out. There was a song that was very popular in the UK and throughout the world as well. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat. Please put a penny in the old man's hat. If you haven't got a penny, then a halfpenny will do. If you haven't got a halfpenny, well, God bless you. My mum used to sing that song instead. Christmas is coming, the goose is getting fat, and then she would say my earthly name. I legally changed my name to Nanari many years ago. But she used to say my earthly name, and so is my earthly name, the little brat. So that is the reality. Now, the avatar that I had in my mind that kept me safe when I was a child was to envision that my mum wasn't that way, that my mum actually loved me. That she was doing this because somehow I deserved it. And later on, that got mirrored to me when I was raped at 15. And the whole reason I was raped is because my parents refused to come collect me from the job that I was working at the time. And so demanded that I go home with one of my co-workers, which I later found out was a serial rapist. And he raped me. And when I came home, I barely made it out of the car alive. I struggled. And I got out, and I was bleeding. And I barely made it home because he raped me in the church car park that was about a block or so from our house at the time. And when I came in the door, my father told me I deserved it. So that was my father and my mother, the reality of them. The avatar that I built up in my mind to keep me safe as a child was my parents loved me. And I must have done something to deserve this. I must have been a horrible, wicked child. I was fat. I was this. I was that. But when I went to go heal this, what I done actually in feeling the emotions and allowing the hurt, the pain, the feelings of not feeling loved, me feeling seen, me feeling understood, is I came to understand the dichotomy of the avatar that I had of my mum in limerence, and my dad as well, but speaking about just my mum at the moment, and also the reality. The reality didn't take away from the fact that my mum did these things. Yet I also saw that my mum was a wounded child. After I processed my own emotions and feelings about it, allowing in my body being beaten, allowing in my body to be not good enough, allowing in my body to be fat, because this is what I saw myself as and was denying that to try to stay safe and be a good girl, quote unquote. And part of that process was also awakening to the reality that my parents were that brutal. And that I had to take a stand for no longer being around them, because they were still continuing, even as an adult, that abusive behavior. Not the physical abuse, but it became emotional abuse, more so than anything. Things like what my mom said in emotional abuse. So I had to distance myself, and it's ironically funny, nay haha, but ironically funny, that so many women and men now, so many folk on this earth, are distancing themselves and estranging themselves from their families. Whence I was doing that, and it's becoming a big thing now. I did that back in the day before it was even heard of. And I did it for a real reason of serious abuse that was upon me, and to no longer be in that environment. Yet also part of the avatar I had to come to understand is that my mother and my father were both very wounded because of what was done to them. Now, intellectually, I could understand that, but in my heart, my wee lassie was just hurting. And so I needed to heal those emotional states first, the emotions and feelings first. And then I came into understanding, my dad didn't really mean to ignore me when I came in with my certificate winning the spelling bee that day. That was his form of meditation. He also was disassociated because of what happened in his childhood. Not excusing his behavior, but helping to understand it as an adult, after I processed the healing of the emotions. And this is where something called the forgiveness release came in, which I published in my second book. It started out as the forgiveness release of coming into that understanding. And then as I went deeper and deeper into the healing, I came into, also I need to write about my inner soul child healing process as well. Because I did the inner soul child healing process first before the forgiveness release. So, you don't need just love. And we are meant to look at the avatar deeper of what we projected in our minds about an ex that we miss, or a friendship that we missed, or even our own mom and our dad, and to see the reality. In the instance of this woman who I said I was briefly mentoring, it got to the point where she has stopped contacting me because she's angry with me, and really she's angry at herself more than anything, because I did have to finally point out to her over the last several months that what she's experiencing is that her boss is not really in love with her, In fact, I even said to her, if you really want to akin, if you really want to know, and this is something that I would invite all of you into and why I'm going to share this part next. If you are still in love with an ex, or if you have an unrequited love, that you really fancy someone, like someone, or in love with someone and what have you, ask them for their feelings. And I said this to her, that I invited her to ask him. He is changing positions even and no longer going to be in the same office with her, going to a different country. So they will nay see each other, and she kept insisting, oh, we have personal numbers, we'll still be in contact. Maybe, nay. She'll no longer be working for him. She will have others that she will attend to in her work. And so I said to her, afore he is away at the end of this month, ask him his feelings. Oh, I can't do that. And we as women, we think, okay, we can't do that. As divine feminine goddess women, we think we can't ask a man what his feelings and or intentions are because he's really meant to be coming forth and saying such. And I agree. We are meant to be the receivers as the divine feminine and receive the intention and energy of the divine masculine coming and declaring his feelings. And then we are to acknowledge and allow and accept that, or say, listen, I feel the same way. However, in instances such as this, when you have a limerence of a fantasy in your mind that someone else you're in love with, or you're still in love with your ex, or everything, or someone you're still friends with that you wish you were still friends with, or an unrequited love, or what have you, asking is the key to kin either way, to know either way. Now, 99% of the time, we don't want to ask whether we're the divine feminine or the divine masculine to begin with, because we're afraid of what they're going to say. We're afraid that they're going to turn around and say, I'm sorry, I don't have those feelings. Or they may reject you outright and say, what are you on about? I've never even felt that way. We're afraid of rejection. So it's completely understandable that you don't want to. However, it's much better than keeping the limerence of a fantasy in your mind, because that kind of fantasy is what I call, and is out there in the world as known as hopium. And this is unfortunately what this song, sorry to say, let's go back to silly love songs for a moment. You think that people would have had enough of silly love songs, but I look around me and I see this isn't so. Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs. What's wrong with that? I need to know. Paul McCartney sings. So what's wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with that, Paul McCartney. What's wrong with that is it builds up limerence in the mind. It builds up hopium, a sense of hope and longing for, which is like opium, a drug. A longing for, a desperation for a love that will never be. Instead of facing yourself and healing what's within you that causes that limerence. As basically what happens is, with limerence, is you're in such a fantasy of what you think will be, of what you thought the relationship would be, or could be, or what your ex might be if you try to get back together, or whatever the situation is, so much so that it has you stuck in life. And it has you free from being in the present moment, in the reality of what's real right now. So that's what's wrong with that. And so to go back to this bonny goddess, this beautiful goddess, deeply down, this goddess, this woman, the reason that she fell in love with her boss and the reason that she's holding this limerence is because her husband passed away. 5, 6, 7 years gone now. I can't remember exactly when. And she says she did healing work and she did grieving over him, and she probably done. But I also invited her into seeing that she really may ever processed and healed those emotions and regulated or balanced her nervous system and balanced her emotions so that she processed those emotions so she could move on and be able to come into a love that loves her. Because she's loving herself. She is admiring herself. She is respecting herself. And I really feel for her, and I have compassion, deep compassion for her, because she still hasn't fully grieved the loss of her husband in that sense. And she's lonely, and she really longs to have that deep connection and that deep love from a man in her life. And so I completely understand where she's at, and I feel for her, and I understand how difficult it is. And I can also see how she's projecting that all those feelings that she has for her husband who passed away onto this man, and he has zero idea what's on. So my invitation to you in sharing this in this podcast episode is for you to really take a deep look within this wisdom at your own life. In what areas are you being in hopium? In what areas are you being in limerence of creating a fantasy, a delusion in your mind, receiving signs from the universe of someone who's supposedly in love with you? Someone else who's just coming to mind as I'm channeling this. A woman, a goddess who I mentored for a long time, who again, in anger, walked away, and I've lost touch with her many years gone now, whose twin soul is a famous musician, a singer and musician. Now, my twin soul is a musician, right? And we have between us, we have thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of text messages and love letters and times we physically spent together when I was living at home in Canada, and times we were together at gigs, doing gigs together and things of that nature. But this woman, her twin soul, she would go and see at concerts and would receive signs of the way he would look out at her in the audience, or after the concert would come up to her and shake her hand like he would shake everybody's hand. And she gave him a book of poetry and a book of photos and this and that and what have you. And he would post things on his Twitter account, and she would take them as posts for her, and all of these limerent things. And when I brought it to her attention, again, she got angry with me. And she walked away. And whatever became of her, and if she did the healing work, I'm not sure. However, is it her twin soul? Absolutely, they are twin souls. Did they ever meet and literally have a deeper connection physically? Nay. She built all this up in her mind and looked for signs. And does the universe bring us signs? Absolutely. But in this case, it was something so severe that it was limerence. And she spent several years in the time that I knew her and was mentoring her off and on in that time, being insistent upon the fact that, they were going to come together and he was going to come for her and what have you. Meanwhile, she had a prime opportunity to actually meet him and spend time with him in person. And she refused to do it because she was afraid of what was going to be said. So where in your life are you in hopium? Where are you in your life in limerence? Because my question to you is this: would you rather be in hopium, or would you rather be free? Would you rather be in hopium, or would you rather be being in your soul, the whole of your soul, as you were designed to be? Would you rather be in hopium and limerence? Or would you rather be free in your soul and feeling soul fulfilled? Because that's what's most important, is being free. Is being able to have the kind of life that's soul fulfilling, that has you wake up every day and feel how amazing life is, rather than, I hope this life will get better. Where in life are you needing to heal those emotions and feelings, that energy in motion, emotions and feelings, to process them in your body, in your nervous system? And if you need assistance with that, I'm always here. I provide mentoring sessions to do that. Just always can. I will give loving kicks in the bum. because I care and I am empathetic. I will nay necessarily tell you what you want to hear. I will tell you what's needed to be heard so that you can break these cycles and patterns and really come into healing within your body and your mind and your heart and your spirit, to be into your soul and its purpose and shine your light so that you can have the love that you're meant to have. Because you are worthy simply because you exist. And so, until we meet again, heart to heart, soul to soul, this is Lady Nanari, wishing you love, light, and cosmic insights on your sacred path of life. May your life be filled with the soul waves of the love ye are. Mahalo and much aloha.